Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Breggy, and I'm so proud to be the superintendent here in Beverly Hills Unified School District. Thank you so much again for coming. Everyone in our theater this evening has something in common. We've all been through an educational system. But what sets us apart is there are people that have made their professional lives all about teaching and learning. And the unique mix that you see up here today is an awesome partnership that has occurred as we began to look at some of the work in our school district. So I want you to sit back, I want you to relax. We've got a full evening for you, and I feel like you will get a really good experience before you leave at the end of the evening. I do want to take a moment before we begin for some of our Future Focus school team members to introduce themselves to kick us off.
Hello, everybody. My name is Fred Gluckman. I'm by profession a CFO of a very large multi-billion-dollar company, and that's what I do day to day to keep myself busy and out of trouble. I'm also the parent of a 10th grader in Beverly High, an 8th grader in Beverly Vista. My mother-in-law was a longtime teacher of the 4th grade at Horace Mann, and my wife graduated from Beverly High School, and I'm very proud to have been part of this committee.
Hello, my name is Marvin Winans Jr., and I'm the CFO of a multi-zillion-dollar corporation. So I got him beat by a couple zillion. And, no, I'm not going to let him beat me just because he went first. So I come from, I was kind of almost born on the stage. My family is a family of musicians. Singers, Grammy-nominated and Grammy-winning singers. And in my family, you can't be in the family if you don't sing. So I also started singing, and so I can stay in the family. But I have a son that is at Beverly Vista, and I love him very much. And I have 2 younger kids, their daughters, that are coming up. One is 3.5, and one is 22 months. And they will be joining him in school soon, so I'm here to help.
I'm Tristan Walker, and not to be outdone, I am the CFO of Casa Shuwaka, my father has. I have 5 kids. 4 of them are in the district, 1 is out. He's at New Roads Private School. So I have 2 boys that are freshmen here at Beverly. I actually attended Beverly myself, as did my husband. I attended Beverly Vista as well. My husband was an El Rodeo kid. 2 of our kids are also at El Rodeo, 1 in 7th and 1 in 4th. And I also am honored to be on the committee. I think it's been a tremendous group of thinkers here. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly Combs. Like Tristan, I'm also a graduate of the district myself, Beverly Vista and Beverly High. I currently have students in the elementary schools at BV and Horace Mann, and I have a college-age student. Outside of this amazing work that I have the opportunity to do, I'm responsible for working with large, multinational, complex organizations to help them manage through change. And I, too, feel very thankful to have had the opportunity to work with this team.
Good evening, I'm Mark Slavkin. I'm Director of Education at the Wallace, the Annenberg Center for Performing Arts in the old post office building. We're proud to partner with all of the Beverly Hills schools in creating opportunities for kids both to see shows and perform. We're hosting the high school dance company next week over 3 nights in our big theater, so we hope you come. And I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Wallace to serve as a resource to help the district think about the opportunities and challenges that we're facing.
My name is Mark Mead, and I've had the pleasure of working here for 12 years. I love it here, and I've worked predominantly as an English teacher, and I love it. I've taught all levels. I spent many years here working with our struggling students, the ones who come to the high school and just weren't ready for it at their reading level, sometimes at the social level, but kids who needed special care, special support. I did that for years. I've also had the opportunity to teach, normal classes, regular classes, honors classes. I've taught ASB. I've been a wrestling coach for many years here, and I've had the privilege of becoming assistant principal and principal of the high school.
My name is Kevin Allen, and I am the principal at El Rodeo School. This is my 30th year in the industry, in education. I've been an administrator for 14 years. I was in Northern California in Alameda Unified School District as an assistant principal at a middle school. I went from there to Rancho Palos Verdes Unified, and I was at Soleado Elementary for 8 years. And after that, I was at Miralest Middle School, also in Rancho Palos Verdes. And then I came here, and I have been at El Rodeo for 4 years. And I absolutely love this district. I like being here and being a part of this community and family.
Hello there, my name is Sean Nasizadeh. I am a parent of a high school student and 2 students that attend Hawthorne. My parents moved to Beverly Hills strictly for me to go to Beverly High, and I made it a point to have my kids graduate through Beverly school system as well. Thank you.
My name is Merle Bauer. We emigrated to this country in 1977 to Beverly Hills because we wanted our son to go through the system. He went through the system K through 12. I then got involved volunteer work. I became teacher's aide, a substitute teacher, and then it was too difficult to get a job in this district, so I taught at Westlake School for Girls for a few years. And then I was there when they were busy reconfiguring to become the Harvard Westlake School. And then Nadine Brewer called me and told me there was an opening at Beverly Vista, and I ran, and I never looked back. And I was so happy there that I stayed there for almost 30 years. And here I am. I'm now retired. I miss it, but I've moved on. But I felt that this was too important to sit in the wings. I had to come back to help with the reconfiguration. Thank you.
My name is Mark Friend. I started teaching high school math in Pasadena Unified. For 6 years I taught there, and then I emigrated to Beverly Hills in 1993, so 24 years ago. And it has been my job and pleasure to teach the middle school math program there, where I train every student to be his or her own CFO of their own lives, and possibly for a large corporation later on as well. So the work of this committee directly impacts what I do, since I am a middle school academic teacher. And so I was very excited to have the opportunity to participate on this committee to share my experience as we go through this process.
Good evening. I'm Molly Peterson. I am perhaps the oldest teacher in the room. I'm not sure. I have been teaching for 45 years, and most of that took place in Northern California. When I moved to Beverly Hills, I taught at Beverly Vista and then moved on to the high school. I am a special ed teacher. I love having Mark Mead as my principal. I love having Jenna McCrae. I miss, where'd he go? Chris Reagan, yes. And, you know, it's been an absolute brain-boggling experience being on this committee, taking a look at all of the different aspects, understanding everything that everybody else knows. Sometimes we have had heated discussions, and sometimes we've laughed our heads off. But hopefully you will appreciate the hard work that has gone into us trying to figure out what in the heck should we do.
Good evening. My name is Lee Eggerman. I have 3 children at Horace Mann, 5th grader, 2nd grader, and kindergartner. I myself am a graduate of Hawthorne. Basically, I'm an old-timer in that my parents went here. My grandmother actually graduated from the district as well. I can tell you that I've really enjoyed both working with everyone here, who I think have been exemplary, and also interacting with the entire community. And so I feel it's a real privilege to be here.
Hi, Hi, my name is Carey Kramer. I have a college student, a high schooler. My kids went to BV, Horace Mann, and a whole bunch of private schools all around the city. Professionally, I work in property management and real estate, and this committee has been just a really amazing group of people, and I've enjoyed working with them. So since we all talked about alumni, both my parents, my mom went to BV, my dad went to Hawthorne, and our family has a lot of roots here as well.
Hello, my name is Terry Angel. I'm the Recreation Services Manager for the City of Beverly Hills. I oversee all the programs from babies to seniors, and I am the Joint Powers Agreement liaison between the city and the school district.
Good evening, I'm Ronit Stone. It's so nice to be back on campus from whence I graduated, as did my husband, my 3 daughters. I'm a former PTA president at El Rodeo, the high school, president of BHEF. In real life, I'm a lawyer. This is an amazing district comprised of amazing, fantastic, committed people. You can see all of us that are coming back, bringing our children back. I urge everyone to have a very open mind tonight and through this process.
I'm Franny Rennie, and I have 2 sons who went through El Rodeo and went through the high school. My husband went to El Rodeo in the high school, and I was an executive in the music industry for 20 years, and then I joined the school system with being PTA president at El Rodeo, then PTA president at Beverly Hills High School, then PTA president of the PTA council over the 5 schools, and I'm thrilled to be part of this committee. It's an amazing group of people. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Prince. I last appeared on this stage in the role of Mercutio in 1976. I have the monologue later if you'd like to hear it. My mom went to Beverly Vista and Beverly High. My 4 sisters and I went to El Rodeo and Beverly High. My son went to El Rodeo Beverly High. Our district served our family very well. It's a spectacular place. I'm a TV writer, but I'm truly passionate about public education. When you hear all of us say how much we loved serving on this committee and this team, I think everyone has become, we're not of one mind, but we're of one goal, and I know that you have the same goal, which is to deliver education and enrichment to our kids in the best way possible. So thank you for being here. You're the people who matter most.
Hi, my name is Kim Timmerman, and I have been teaching 3rd grade at Hawthorne for 24 years. It's a long time, in the same classroom, by the way. And I also have 2 children that have gone through Hawthorne and are now at the high school. I have a senior and I have a freshman. And I, like everyone else, it's been a true honor to be a member of this committee. I've enjoyed learning so much about our district and our schools, and so.
I'm Jory Lindsay, 21 years teaching kindergarten at Hawthorne. I also get to teach middle school. It's an unusual combination. I teach musical theater for our middle school, direct and choreograph. So I wear many hats. And I have 2 children who went through Hawthorne from kindergarten to 8th grade and graduated from the high school. One is at the University of Oregon in Eugene, you have to say it like that. And the other's a chemistry major at Sacramento State.
Hi, my name's Jocelyn Bresnick, and I'm the CEO and CFO of a kindergarten class at El Rodeo. And I had a lot of time to think about it. And I'm a graduate of Beverly, as are my 3 younger siblings. My mom, my aunt, and my uncle also went through the system, so I care a lot about this place, and I'm very invested, and it's been a really interesting ride with these people. I've learned a lot of things that I didn't know I was ever going to learn, so, and I can't wait to teach you what I've learned, too. So, thank you for being here.
And I'm really fortunate and blessed to work with such a great cabinet at the district office who in turn became supports and helped facilitate many of the Future Focus Schools team meetings. And so I would like for them just to introduce themselves briefly. And we'll start down here with Ms. Chisholm.
Good evening. My name is Laura Chisholm. I'm Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hello, I'm Dustin Seaman. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Education Services.
Hello, my name is LaTanya Kirk Carter Latham. I'm the CEO of a $69 million district. Anyhow, this is has been a great committee, and we've been happy to be of service.
Good evening, my name is Bernadette Lucas, Director of Technology.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Laura Skirty, and I'm the Director of Communications for the district. And yes, when you complain about phone calls, emails, everything, I read every one of them, and I will get back to every one of you. We're here to communicate as best as possible with you in the way you want to. So I appreciate the feedback, and I love having a district like this that is small enough to really personalize it for you. So thanks for your patience as we switch things around this year, and we'll continue to serve you as best as we can. Thanks for being here.
I think I can speak for everybody on the stage that taking on a task like this and looking at this type of work has been taking on a second job. So I really do appreciate all of the time and effort. Something that is important to note, which may seem obvious to some, but maybe not others, is that there's absolutely no personal or professional gain from being on a committee like this and looking at the work. We have taken on quite an undertaking. Sometimes we look at ourselves as underdogs because anybody that's going to be looking at long-standing traditions and looking at reimagining the way that we can deliver education is certainly taking on a great responsibility. As superintendent, I'm going to kind of outline the picture for tonight, and then I will be letting some of the future-focused team members fill it in and complete the picture for you. There's a couple pathways that one can take when they become a superintendent for a school district. One path is going the business route, that financial route, becoming a chief business official and then working your way up to the superintendency. The other route is more of an instructional route, and that is a route that is a classroom teacher, and then a principal, and then superintendent. And that's the route that I took for the school district. And so it's been an interesting career, which has provided me with incredible experience at the elementary, middle school, and also the high school. And I do want to just kind of address something kind of head on, because coming into the district, and it's been almost a year, there's lots of things that are being said about just change in the district. And I think it's really important to note that we're not calling something just to call it something. We've got ideas, and we want to share those with you tonight. And as a superintendent coming into the district, it's the instructional piece. It's the experience that our students have. That's the most important thing for our work. And I think we've done a really good job of keeping that what is the most important thing. And that is, what kinds of opportunities do we want our students to have? And so our mission statement is up here on the screen because it's really twofold. We want to make sure that we have those experiences, those academic experiences. We want to look at viable options. And so that's the work that we've been doing. Thank you. And so it's twofold because there is a financial responsibility that also comes with delivering any type of education. And so while instruction is the heart and core of what we do, we also need to be looking at viable options that will keep us sustainable as well. So as a superintendent coming in, and the instruction background that I have, it was really important to keep that as the forefront of our work. And I think that we have done a great job. I think that we've learned a lot from each other, and we continue to learn from one another, and we'll continue to learn and also share. When I first came to the district just almost a year ago, I realized that we had complex challenges. During my first couple of weeks, I spent some time just visiting and observing in classrooms. And right away, I noticed that I was observing different experiences happening in different school buildings. And so I thought that was a very unique thing that was happening. I knew that people were very proud of what was happening in buildings, and I know that our staff was working really hard, doing what they can with what they have. And so that was new to me, that having 4 middle schools for about 900 students, and how does that operate? And I found that to be just an interesting experience. Then, as my 3rd week coming into the district, I learned more about some of the financial challenges that we have. So here's a picture that has 3 different paths. So I just mentioned that at the core of what we do is educational programming. It's the curriculum, it's the instruction, it's the assessment. It's at the heart of what we do. So that's kind of our middle path. That's the most important path. But in order to have successful programming, you need to have your facilities and also your finances all tied together. And in a perfect world, which we know we don't live in, but in a perfect world, these paths should come together because they are all interconnected and they all support one another. But as this picture shows you, this is the picture that we're in right now. We have some educational programming that's going on, which is our most important thing. But those paths are not connecting here. We're working on our facilities, and now we need to work on our finances. But in a perfect world, these things will come together. So going back a year, one of the first presentations that I gave as superintendent in the district was that we were told by the Board of Education we needed to cut $5 million. And so we spent some time looking at how we can do that. We did that from a perspective of a top-down approach. We needed to do that within the first month that I was here. So it was all management decisions. And I'll tell you, we had a really, really hard time doing that. Certainly there were pink slips, and there were people that were going to lose their positions and lose their jobs. But we had to then start to just cherry pick at what we could do to cut $5 million. And so I appealed to the board along with my team and said, I just got here. Can you give me a year? Can we look at a different type of approach? Could you please give us an opportunity to just look at something where I'm able to meet with the community? And so the board was gracious, and they said, you know what, we're going to let you do that. And so that's how the idea of this team was born, from having that opportunity to do that and for that extra year. So we really have that same problem again as we did a year ago, and that was not a surprise to us. That we've a plan A, which is this kind of bottom-up approach with working with the community and the future focus group. And we also have a plan B that if we cannot work things out, we're going to have to start making cuts again, and it will be impacting educational programming throughout the district. So change is coming. We know that it's coming. And this was a great opportunity for us to look at this change as it was either going to be, it's going to be vision, or it's going to be reaction. And so we're hoping through this process that we're able to make some changes so that we can improve our educational environment for kids and our programming, but at the same time be financially sustainable as well. The social emotional wellness and just appropriate learning is at the core, again, of what we do. And what's really important here is that we care about kids. And so any discussion that we've had, any idea that we've had, that we've made it really clear that this is going to be something that we keep close to what we do. And when we're delivering our educational delivery of instruction and curriculum, that it's all about making sure that the student is in the center. And I want to step back for a second because I know that we're caught up many times with this, that we're calling, it's either TK through 8, which is our transitional kindergarten, through 8th grade, or our 9th through 12th grade high school, or separate middle school. And I just want to step back for a second and just talk to you a little bit about not naming it anything right now. What we believe in, and what I believe in as your superintendent, is the experiences that we have for our students. And so, while it could look this way in any building, I just want you to try to open your mind a little bit and just try to look at this from a different perspective. And the perspective is about collaboration and safety for our children. And I want you to look at up here, this is just an example of what middle school philosophy is. Again, this doesn't mean K-8, it doesn't mean separate middle school. It means middle school philosophy. How are we going to be taking care of our middle school students? Middle school is the second largest growth spurt for any child growing up. And if you have middle school students, you know how difficult. 1 minute they're happy, the next they're sad. They're crying, they're laughing. It's a very tough but fun group as a former middle school teacher. And so we have to identify and take care of those adolescents in their learning environment. And that is our responsibility. And so middle school philosophy is important because it does take care of the whole child. It's like a wraparound service. And so on this slide, this just gives you an example of what teaming is with the middle school. And so this is just an example of providing a teaming opportunity, and this is just for 6th grade, that there would be about 150 students on a team, and they all share that same teacher. That group of teachers gets to meet together every day. They care about their kids. They know their kids. And what's the best thing about the middle school philosophy is it's the relationships. That's the fabric of who we are, is that relationship. And many times what we have now is we have teachers that are teaching across multiple grade levels. We might have a teacher that's teaching 2 sections of 8th grade math, 2 sections of 7th grade math. And so you don't share that experience with other colleagues, teachers, and students don't share that same group with other students as well. So this is just an example of that type of philosophy where we're going to take care of our students. The classroom diagram over there is just an illustration that when you have your core teachers all right next to each other, it's like a den. It's like a place for kids that are, the classrooms are right next to each other. The teachers are right next to each other. So it's not, that's the math area, that's the English area. We keep kids together, it's interdisciplinary studies. And so while we automatically want to start thinking of a certain type of model or calling a building a certain specific grade level, it's really about taking care of our kids. There's been a lot going on about what's happening in our world, in our society, and bullying. This is such a great philosophy that takes care of our kids because the teachers see the same kids all the time. If I'm a math teacher on this team, and I see that Laura comes into class and there's something wrong, something's going on with Laura. You know, all of these teachers, I can say, something's going on with Laura. Just want to let you know. If a parent has a problem with a teacher or something's happening where they're not sure, a parent's not sure, how amazing is it to be able to meet with that group of teachers all at the same time? This is purposeful planning, and it's purposeful as you take care of kids and one another. So I want you to frame your thinking as we go through some information with you and start thinking about the future. This is kind of a fun little story that is really relevant, and you may have seen some articles on this, that Blockbuster was an amazing company at one time. And it was a company that at one time seemed to be really innovative. And through the years, another company was developed called Netflix. And so while Blockbuster was a company that was having people come into their store, they rented videos, and if you didn't rewind them or turn them in on time, you had to pay. I think you might remember that. That's how they got their revenue. And they were a successful company. In 2000, the year 2000, Netflix was a struggling company. They actually went to Blockbuster because they wanted to be sold to Blockbuster. And when they said no, they said, well, can you help us? Can we do something for you? You know, can we do a digital platform online for you, since you're an in-store type of video company? And they said no. They said, we're fine. What we are doing right now is working. And so we all know the story. I mean, Blockbuster goes bankrupt and Netflix becomes a $40 million company. And it's because of innovation. And it's because of looking at what's happening in the world and appealing to what the customers need and in the world that we live in today. And there was a CEO from Blockbuster that said, there was a quote, and I'm paraphrasing, that said something like, vision and management are two different things. And you can see that certainly didn't see them well. So the literature, and you've heard about it, we've seen those questions online about what's best for kids, and the literature says this, and the literature says that. And I just want to put out, just as some caution, that very seldom are you going to find an exact match when it comes to literature. So when you're looking at studies, and please review them, we are reviewing them, please look to see, is it the same type of experience that we're offering here? Because I think it's important that it become a match. So it looks like we're comparing the same things to each other. There is a very reputable source, and it's through the AMLE, which is the American Middle Level Educator. And this is a organization where they have a book called This We Believe. And we'll put the link online to some of this information. That this is an organization that these are not half-baked ideas, the ones that I was just talking about. This is what good, solid middle school teaching is all about. And so through this organization, This We Believe is a book that talks about, and it's written by 27 of the foremost authorities in middle school education. And I welcome you to start looking at that. There's lots of articles out there, but this is something that we could truly hang our hat on. Interestingly enough, and I'm going to hand it off in just a second, but interestingly enough, the district had ordered an outside review of the school district just before I came. And it was at one of our first meetings where I was talking about some of the budget cuts. And they had asked for this third party from California School Services to come out and just analyze and just to look at the district and look at the operations and give us an analysis of what they see. And this was in 2017, and it, again, was one of the first presentations that occurred when I was here. The organization came in and talked about their methodology. We thought it was very interesting, and I just wanted to, well, we have the report online on our website, just so that you can review the whole report. But some of the key findings I thought were interesting, because the organization knew that the current TK through 8 model was a long-standing tradition. And so it was interesting to read. They said, if that's something that the community values and you want to keep, please keep your eye on these things. And that was the cost, and also the diversity of what programs were being offered. What kind of levels are being offered with courses, the school facilities and the configuration, and then the social emotional piece, and then the community input piece. So I thought that was really interesting, which is kind of our springboard for then starting our FFST group. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Merle Bauer, and she's going to get us started.
I guess they asked me to speak about the history because I think I've been here the longest. As far back as 1970, our district expressed concerns about the special needs of our middle school students. In the early 1990s, under the leadership of our superintendent, Sol Levine, our district's middle school task force concluded that a reorganization of our present configuration would substantially improve the quality of our middle school educational program. And if you have any questions about this, we have one of the chairpersons here this evening, Rochelle Ginsberg. Rochelle? In 2003, our superintendent, Dr. Gwen Gross, strongly advocated for a dedicated middle school, which I opposed at that time. So I'm able to empathize with anyone who opposes the idea of reconfiguration. But times have changed since then, and so have the social, emotional, and academic needs of our students. This is now the third time that I've been actively involved in the reconfiguration process. I know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly, each time expecting a different result. Nevertheless, you may rest assured that I am not insane, in spite of having taught 8th grade English at Beverly Vista School for almost 30 years. During the course of that period, it became abundantly clear that our school district must reconfigure. A dedicated middle school would enable us to create the most effective student-centered environment that engages all middle school students in purposeful learning activities and constructive interaction. Our present K-8 configuration, and I lived it for many years, inhibits our ability to address the emotional, social, and academic needs of our diverse middle school population. It is with much pleasure that I call upon El Rodeo's renowned and esteemed principal, Kevin Allen.
Okay. At first, I'd like to acknowledge our teaching and learning. I'm actually going to be addressing teaching and learning in our schools. And so can I acknowledge our subcommittee, if you all would stand and just kind of wave so that people can see who worked on this committee. So, one of the things that we looked at as a committee was what our district actually looks like. And we really look a lot more like a system of schools and not a dynamic 21st century school district. We have 5 individual, almost fiefdoms. They're very unique and different, each and every one. I want to point out, though, why that might not be such a great thing. And so we're going to go to the next slide. When you look at those 5 schools, or I'm going to focus not so much on the high school, but on the K-8s, there's a huge amount of inequity between one school and another. For example, at El Rodeo, we offer a robotics program. No one else offers a robotics program. At BV, they offer their students an opportunity to take ceramics. No one else has that. Hawthorne and El Rodeo both have musical theater programs. No one else has that. And there are huge implications for that when we think about the pathway moving from the middle school into the high school. Because think about the people that you've seen on this very stage with the leads in all the musicals. Most of them that are at the high school are from El Rodeo. And as much as I'm proud of that, it's not equitable. We are creating an inequity amongst our schools and with our kids. There are serious implications about those pathways so that our students finding their interests in middle school and moving on to high school. And I know that there are some folks that have kind of suggested that electives aren't everything. But I really, as a principal and as an educator, I want to tell you how important, how critical our electives and our elective teachers. Where's Mr. Fetterman? Right up there, I saw you. Awesome, our teacher. Is your wife here? Is Elizabeth here too? No, she's not. But Mr. Fetterman, I just want to tell you how important those are. Because guess what? Art teaches you spatial reasoning. Music, it reinforces math. Your theater, speech, debate, those build confidence and self-esteem in kids. And you begin to build that program at the middle school level, and it moves on to that high school level, and you have a different looking high school kid. So the implications for our high school really stem from our middle school. So moving on to the next thing we did was we wanted to see what happened when we compared our district with like districts. And when I say like districts, I mean districts with similar student populations, similar levels of affluence and parent education across our state and region. And what we found is in both math and reading, we're falling below. We are falling below other districts. We're being outperformed by Manhattan Beach. We are being outperformed by Rancho Palos Verdes. We are being outperformed by La Cañada. We are being outperformed by San Marino. And they are spending significantly less per student than we are. Why is that? So let's go on. We had both math and English language arts. So we did the comparison. Going on to the next slide. We looked at the configuration of those districts, those same districts compared to us. And in elementary, you can see we're pretty much in line. We have a very similar number of elementaries. Same amount of high schools. Our significant difference was at the middle school. We are the only district that is taking all of our resources and spreading them so thin amongst 4 schools that we are actually not able to meet the needs of our kids in so many ways, in the deeper ways. I will tell you that when I interviewed in this district 4 years ago, I'll never forget, I sat in front of a panel. And I'm sitting in front of the entire interview panel, and at the end of the interview, they ask a question. Do you have any questions for us? I had one question because I did my homework. I read all about El Rodeo. I knew what courses they offered. I knew what their school day looked like. I knew what the student population looked like. And I asked, having been a middle school principal myself at a middle school with almost 1,100 students, how are you able to offer your students a dynamic program of electives with only 240 kids at the middle school level? How are you able to do that? And it came back a very vague answer. We work on it. But we can do better than that. We can do better. Our kids, my kids, that I walk in and see every day, they deserve better than that. They deserve an enriched program. So we're going to go, one last thing I wanted to make sure I pointed out, and I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself. The next slide. What we looked at is we compared 3 different scenarios to find out what were the kinds of things that are stronger, that we're actually able to do within a configuration, and what things are we not able to do. So as we look, the current K-8 system is the first. The consolidating 3 K-8s, so if we just shut a school down and had 3 K-8s, is the second. And the last one is a designated middle school. And I'm going to point out just a few of them. Dr. Breggy pointed out for us that idea of teaming. And I can't stress to you enough how important that is. At Miralest, my teachers would sit down. My 8th grade team would sit down and they knew every single kid on that roster by name. And those kids, those teachers all sat daily and were able to talk about their students as a group and move those kids as a group. And those kids knew that they all shared the same teachers, the exact same teachers. Right now, we've got teachers that are teaching 7th grade, 7th and 6th grade, multiple grade levels. So when we talk about team planning day, what team are they on? Are they on the math team? So 2 people sit down and talk? Is that an enriched conversation? Are they on the 7th grade team? And what does that look like? Do I go to the 7th grade team meeting today, or do I go to the 8th grade team meeting today as a teacher? And that's difficult. So that teaming thing, that teaming concept that Dr. Breggy talked about is critical. But a couple of other things I wanted to point out. Acceleration and intervention. That when our students want acceleration, we can't always find a way to do that. At Miralest, I had geometry. I had a geometry class at my middle school campus. Ridgecrest, another school in Rancho Palos Verdes, middle school, had a geometry class on their campus. And the reason they were able to do that is because they were able to accelerate their math program for those students that were high-flying and could perform, and they were able to staff it and have a geometry program on their campus. There's an inequity. We can't meet that with our current staffing. Intervention. There's another issue that if your child is struggling how do we, in a schedule, right now, El Rodeo has an intervention program. We actually have middle school intervention in reading and math. I just happen to have 2 extra sections. BV doesn't. They didn't have those sections available. So my kids at El Rodeo, who are struggling, are getting those extra supports. That's inequity. That's an inequity in our district, and we can do better. The next is our honors classes at capacity. If you are a middle school parent in this room, and I know it happens all the time, because I live it, and you come in and you want your child to have a class or have an accelerated class, or you're asking for your child to be in the honors class, and there are 35 students that might qualify for that honors class, and there are only 32 spots, because by contract we can't go more than 32. So 3 kids who actually qualified for honors are going to be out of that honors track. And it is an honors track. Those kids travel from one teacher to the next as a track. Or your child qualifies for honors math and not honors English. We can't do that because those honors kids can pretty much travel as a pack. They pretty much are all taking the same courses. So the minute I try to take a kid out of honors math and put them in regular math, but to give them honors English, I can't do it. But if I had multiple sections of regular English in 8th grade, I could give a kid honors math and regular English because it's offered multiple periods. As a principal, we're constantly trying to meet the individual learning needs of our kids. And it's tough. I gotta tell you, it's tough. I think that is the end of my part of this presentation. But I want to tell you, I want to end with one last thing. And the last thing is this. I know that there's a lot of fear in the district. The change is difficult. But I am going to tell you one thing that I know 100% to be true, without a doubt. And that is that on the first day of school next year, on the very first day of school, our doors are going to be open. Your students, our students, are going to come in. They are going to have known entity teachers, teachers that we know, teachers that I can start naming right now. So that this isn't a mystery. They are going to have a known curriculum that exists right now. We have the curriculum. They are going to have the same books that we have right now. And those teachers are going to have planned those lessons and are going to start rolling out curriculum. And it doesn't matter if we're a K-8 or a designated middle school. I don't care what the configuration that the board selects. What is going to happen on the first day of school is we're going to start teaching. And we're not reinventing education here. We're just figuring out a configuration for kids. The education piece, it's a known entity. We're not reinventing the district. Just a little bit of configuration. So I hope that kind of helps a little bit. And I just want to tell everyone, if you need to talk, if you'd like to talk, I'm at El Rodeo. You can call me anytime. I've met with BV parents. I've met with people from Hawthorne. I'm happy to sit down with you and sit and talk. Thank you.
Hello, folks. Remarkable job by Mr. Allen in going over not just a lot of the academic, relevance to what we've been talking about, but he also touched on a lot of the social-emotional stuff. And so he really covered a lot of the stuff that Mr. Nasirzadeh and I were going to talk about, but the good news is we had a little bit of a different angle that we were going to talk about. One, the perspective of a parent, and one from the perspective of a high school principal and teacher. I want you to know that, with the exception of my first year as a teacher, I taught middle school for 1 year, first year, and I will never forget it. It takes a very special human being to be a middle school teacher. It comes with, sometimes adult bodies, sometimes not, many times adult problems, many times child problems, all mixed up in this whirlwind of emotion. It's really a remarkable job. And I have to hand it to our TK8 principals, assistant principals, counselors. I don't know how they juggle kindergarten to 8th grade. It's a remarkable skill set that these people have. Specialization matters, it helps. And I think one of the things that we're talking about is robust opportunities and giving people the opportunities to really focus in on the needs of specific groups. If we can hit the next slide. Elementary school challenges. I mean, we're going to have Mr. Nasir today talk for a moment from the perspective of a parent about what's special about the K-8 model that folks have experienced here for many, many years. And I think it's important that we don't overlook that because I think a lot of it has to do with how we feel socially and emotionally. So I'm going to let Mr. Nasir today come and talk about that for a moment.
Thank you. I'm actually very impressed how you managed to say my last name. That's an achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, I was, simply put, I am against reconfiguration. I am dedicated like hell to a K-8 model. I don't want to change, and I'm going to fight tooth and nail to keep it as such. That was me around October, September when the meeting started. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a trick. I just want you to come along on my journey. I love the fact that when I go pick up my kids at Hawthorne, the middle schooler can walk down to the elementary, pick him up, and walk down where I can pick him up myself. I like the fact that they can go to the ice cream truck together and buy ice cream. I like the fact that they can go back to their elementary teachers and help out, even though they're in middle school. I love the K-8. And then I came and I joined the committee, steadfast that not only I know what I want, I am going to change 21 other people that they will follow me. Interesting thing happened. I begin to see and get just astonished at the level of passion, expertise, knowledge that this group had. It humbled me quite a bit. So I had to face myself with a difficult challenge of having sworn that I will not accept any kind of reconfiguration to some facts that are coming out, and they are educating me. They are teaching me how perhaps the 6 through 8 model, the reconfiguration, whatever you want to call it, can offer a better education to our middle schoolers, to my students, to my children. I will tell you about how one of the things that I noticed, and I'm going to tell you the things that hit my heart about it. The reinvention of our children. So when my children are in K-8, our children are through K-8, same group of people, same group of children are going through together. And I have noticed at times that maybe I like to have my children, maybe we like to have our children exposed to more friendships, exposed to other opportunities, just social, forget about the classes. Then I thought maybe this would provide that opportunity. If 4 middle schools are now into one, our children get to now explore other friendships. And that resonated to me. That felt good for me to know it can be a possibility. The transition. So I had my first grader, or excuse me, my high schooler, when she went from 8th grade to 9th, to high school. Drama, to say the least. I mean, it was you know, I was petrified for her because she was shivering, you know, and I remember that when I dropped her off the first day at the high school for 9th grade, she was in the car and she was sobbing, and I said, for love of God, whatever you do, please don't go to first day of class crying. Just put on a happy face. It's okay, you'll be okay. It was okay, she survived. But how wonderful would it have been, perhaps, for her to be more prepared, to go not from you know, a small community as such to a massive community. Maybe that can be an easier transition, perhaps. Consider that. And the last point I will talk about, this also intrigued to me. The fact that our middle schoolers in a dedicated school will have a specialized staff for the middle schoolers. So it feels good that there's a dedicated principal, a dedicated VP, a dedicated counselor, and teachers where they all know each other, they all know my children, and they can help the transition somewhat to high school because they will be working, these same administrators, very closely with the high school. So there's a bit of a communication that perhaps right now is difficult to have between the high school and 4 different middle schools. But that could be possible when you have one. Just for you to consider, those kind of help me be a bit more open to it. Thank you, Mr. Meehan.
Mr. Nasirzadeh used the verb to explore. And I think it's a really important one. As a high school person, as an ASB director, I have led the Link Crew team. And what Link Crew is, it's a bunch of juniors and seniors who have decided to become leaders of the school. And the way they become leaders is by forming a group, talking about what it means to be a Beverly Hills High School student. What do we believe? What's important to us? And helping 8th graders coming into 9th grade on the very first day of school transition from 8th to 9th grade. And watching that is a beautiful thing. And I really believe that the growth of a high school student is about success and failure. Those two things both have to happen to grow. And Link Crew is always, in my opinion, a wonderful success. Now, maybe not for every single 9th grader who walks on campus. Big thing that we talk about in Link Crew is accept them exactly where they are. You will get a kid in your room who will be like this the whole time. Awesome. We love you just like that. You're good. It's a big thing about accepting kids, and it's an amazing leadership opportunity for kids who aren't always in ASB, in service learning, in sports. We have many, many kids in that who are academic kids who might be into a club or two, but they're in there because they care about kids. It's a leadership opportunity. It's amazing. It's remarkable. One of the things I want to talk about is in our K-8s, I'm sure there are these opportunities, and those of you who are leading them, keep growing them. And it's the opportunities for kids to become leaders. I'm sure you have middle school ASBs. But at the high school, if you came to the 3rd week of the high school year, you come to the 2nd or 3rd floor patio, depending on the year, you'll see something called Club Day. And it is absolutely insane. It is one of the coolest days of the year. I would say at least a third, if not half of the school is plugged into one area, music blaring in every club you can imagine, over 100. Signs everywhere, leaders all around saying, come join my club, come believe what I believe. And we're making leaders in many different ways. I'm sure these opportunities exist in the K-8. But do they exist in the volume that I'm describing here? Are there that many opportunities for your kid to become a leader? For example, I was just writing a letter of recommendation for a lovely girl who's in the band and wants to be in an MIT pre-med summer program, right? I'm like, of course I'll write it for you. I'm like, tell me about yourself. And she's telling me stuff, and a lot of it is what you're kind of used to hearing. And she tells me about Chamber for Charity. And what they do is she and some other musicians get together and they go to nursing homes and they play, or in hospitals, and play for people who are ill. These are awesome opportunities that can happen in a K-8, but imagine how exponentially those opportunities happen when there are many, many kids all together. How many opportunities to find different people who share your passion? It's something to think about. Leadership, really important. I had a kid when I was a wrestling coach who had never wrestled in his life. Never, not one day, and he got pinned every single match of his entire freshman year. It was, in my mind, heartbreaking. He didn't give up, didn't go. On his last match, the kid busted his knee, fell on top of him, pinned him. Yay, you know, great, he won a match. By the time he was a junior, he was the team captain. By the time he was a senior, he was the first Beverly Hills wrestler in 20, 30 years to make masters. He went on to lead our team into a whole new era. He became a leader, and I'm telling you, if you met him on day one, he walked like this. Absolutely changed. The opportunity to be on a team changed who he was. 100% changed him. He went on to USC, who didn't even have a team, and he started an intramural team that still competes today. He started it. This is a kid who couldn't look you in the eyes. We don't have any teams in any middle school at all. I was just talking with a kid. I'm like, look, you're struggling right now. You're in 9th grade. I get it. It's not unusual. We got to get you involved in something. He went to go try out for baseball. He never held a bat before. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't even safe. Opportunities. And Mr. Allen mentioned pathways. And I'm going to steal something out of his book. We've got an awesome robotics team. And I'm telling you, a lot of great kids find themselves in their group in that robotics team. El Rodeo's got a team. They won't go out and compete. I hope you don't mind if I steal this from you. They go out and compete, and they work their butts off. They really do. But they're competing against schools that have a robotics class. This is an after-school club. And they got 35th out of 36. But they were probably first place in effort, but they just didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have the opportunity. And so success and failure, those kids aren't going to give up. They're going to come to the high school and they're going to grow and they're going to continue. But I want you to imagine a different scenario where Mr. Allen has a class and those kids are getting 3rd and 4th and how they feel then. And then they come and our robotics team is already better than it is now. And it's great. We're going to take care of your kids, whether it's TK8 or whether it's a middle school. I mean, the high school, we love them all the same every day, just like Link Crew. But these opportunities are really valuable. I had one freshman one year come to me on campus. I really want a magic club. All right. Doesn't exist. Make a magic club. Now he's got all sorts of kids in there. Sometimes on club day they're doing tricks. It's one of the most popular, interesting ones you can see. But that's not what's awesome. Although that was leadership at a 9th grade level. He was already learning it. This year he's a soccer player. They lost their coach for a while. Just, one of those things. He couldn't stay. There was an interim period. He came to me in the most mature manner, sat in front of my desk and said, can't we just practice on our own in the morning? Is there anything we can do? Awesome leadership. Awesome leadership. I'm telling you, the opportunity for leadership is vital. Now, the other thing is the opportunity to meet kids' needs emotionally. And I'm telling you, when I watch kids transition to 9th grade, they're all going to be fine. We're going to love them up. It's going to be okay. But 9th grade, it's a hard transition for a lot of kids. I'm telling you, it's rough. I've seen it as a freshman teacher of the kids who struggle academically, and I've seen it with kids in my honors freshman English class, at least one of whom is sitting in the audience right now. And interestingly, they come at different levels. When I taught that English class in that period of time, there were some kids who just weren't as good as grammar as other kids. And after time, they shared with me, well, I'm from this school, I'm from that school, and it's just different. And who knows why? Meeting kids' needs socio-emotionally, a lot of it is about working together, the wraparound effect. And I'm a big believer that a middle school is an opportunity to give kids training wheels for high school. Because high school is not easy. And in 9th grade, it's high stakes day one. And there's not a lot of room for the failure that I believe leads to growth. A middle school model gives our educators there an opportunity to focus on a specific group of kids with specific socio-emotional needs, and they are big needs, big ones. If we can meet those needs then, it really does help that transition into 9th grade. And I don't think I can undersell just how valuable I believe that is. Now, it's a little bit anecdotal, It's hard to put up slides and grids, but I'm telling you, 12 years, and I'll bet if you asked a lot of our teachers today on this campus, they would say the same thing. We're doing great, but we can do better. And meeting those social-emotional needs, I think, in education, one of the things we try to do is this thing called scaffolding, where we hold their hand with clear expectations for quite a bit of time. And slowly we begin to release and allow them to grow on their own and become autonomous. But that slow release is important. When they arrive at freshmen, it's hard to do that socially, emotionally. 6th to 8th grade, when the stakes aren't quite so high, you can do that. You can create high school training wheels, basically. Get them ready for the size and the magnitude of the high school without the high stakes. And with all the offerings that they will still have when they arrive as a 9th grader and don't know how to start a club or how to be a leader as much as they could. So, and I believe that's been a big part of our conversation. One last thing, I absolutely agree with Mr. Allen. And it's a little easier for me because life continues as is. But we are going to meet your kids' needs. We love them to death. And that will never change. We are just looking at ways that we can continue to help your kids grow. And whatever becomes of this, we're going to continue to be a successful district that we are all, I'm sure, very proud to be a part of. Thank you.
And now we move to the interesting part, which is the numbers. I can tender it to any CFO here. Anyone? So our job, of course, our mandate is to present options. That is our mandate, and options will be presented. But there are some hard truths about the district as it stands today. And those hard truths come down to using our dollars in the most effective way to develop the best students as graduates. We want students who can excel. We want students who can meet the world that they are going to graduate into, which will never, ever be the same the day they graduate, 5 years after they graduate, or 10 years after they graduate. The world is changing, and it's only changing faster. And so our job is to prepare our students so that they can meet that change head on and succeed and lead within it. And that's what we want to do. So how can we do that in an environment in which we can't afford to give all of our students the options that we as Beverly Hills residents want for our students? We want them to have drama and athletics and arts and high-performance academics and interventionist academics and social and emotional growth. We want all of those things. And somehow we have to be able to pay for that. And there's a reality in this district. We are basic aid, which means we don't get paid per student. Okay? So we don't get paid per student. So we have only so many dollars available from our property taxes. That's a truth. And those property tax dollars only grow at a rate of between 2 to 5%, maybe 6% per year because of Prop 13. So we only have so many dollars in growth. But the cost to deliver education grows faster than that. Okay? So we're going to have a gap somewhere along the way. And I'm not going to speak to the current financial position of the district. That wasn't our mandate. So we didn't dig into that so deeply to be able to stand here and talk about that. But we can talk truthfully about a structural issue that we face in this district where costs grow faster than the revenue we have available to support that. And there is a truth as well that our student population has decreased by 20% over the past approximate decade. So we're spending the same amount of dollars on the same amount of facilities, educating fewer students, which therefore means we have stretched teachers and stretched educational resources. And so that's the environment in which we have to build this new vision for the future that we're all aiming for as we move forward. So the objective here as we talk about reconfiguration is really to be able to release extra dollars so that we can afford to be able to do better and more and provide more for our students and provide more for our educators so that they can do better and deliver better. That's the objective. Simple numbers. You look at 2009 to 2010, and we have about 4,900 students. We roll forward to today, we're 3,900, 20% smaller. Thanks. Because we are spread across multiple campuses, while we have the capacity to deliver 29-to-1 student-teacher ratios, perhaps 32-to-1 student-teacher ratios, depending upon which class configuration you're in, depending on what grade you're in. Because we're spread, we're not doing that today, which means that we have inefficient classroom delivery. I'm looking over your shoulder. All right, good. These are numbers from about 2 years ago that talk about per student spending. Beverly Hills, you can see, we are spending far more per student compared to districts that are performing much better than we are, as you saw in the data from before. Again, that's just about not being the right size, right configuration for our student base. If you roll this forward 2 years, and we're looking at today's budget, today's declined student population, we're closer to $17,000 per student, and we're getting less for it. Next. We looked again just as well, just to make sure that the ratios of how we're spending the dollars made sense compared to other high-performing districts or other districts that were similar enough to ours that we could think about them. And as you can see, by ratio, we're spending about right, but by magnitude, we're off. So when we look at different configuration options, and we think about different ways to look at this, and whether the board adopts status quo, which means we will hit a structural problem, or the board adopts a shrinking of the number of campuses and remains TK through 8, or the board adopts a middle school concept where we have a separate middle school. One way or another, if we adopt some form of reconfiguration, we will have more resources available to deliver better students, give our educators better resources, graduate better kids who are better ready for the future, so that we can regain that lighthouse district status that we used to have and that we all want so very, very much. And that is the case of the reality of the facts as we stand here today on the numbers. With that, I turn it over to Mercutio.
Why, then I see Queen Mab had been with you today. That's my first line. Everyone came here with questions. So Dr. Breggy had what we felt was a brilliant idea for the participation. I'm looking at my friends. We did a town hall meeting many years ago here, and many of you were on the board, school board, some of you were in BHEF with me, in which questions and answers came to the people on the stage. And Dr. Breggy felt that that wouldn't address your needs, that you couldn't ask a specific question about your child or your family. So what we're going to do is break up into rooms. We're going to break up into rooms about teaching and learning. That's Kevin's group. Social development, that's Mark and Sean's group. Finances, that's your group. These administrators, these teachers, ex-teachers, these parents, if you have questions about special ed, Molly's here. If you have questions about finances, Fred has become Fred and Marvin, because of their status as CFOs. If you have 5 questions, you want to go to 5 different rooms, please do. 4 rooms, it will be waiting there. The reason that we're not going to do Q&A right now in front of everybody is it might turn into a filibuster in which somebody speaks forever and then you don't get your question answered. Everything is transparent. Everything you've seen here sits on the web. You can look at it, you can read it, and there's more information than that. You're raising your hand, so I'm going to answer your question, but I'm not going to get into that because you know I'm going to go room to room. Sure.
I'm a parent in El Romeo. They started construction in our school 3 years ago. They took the playground, most of the playground from our kids. The kids, they don't have auditorium, they don't have a proper cafeteria.
I hear you.
And they came with a big plans, and after a year or so, and it was a big oops, there is no budget, there is no money, and everything left the way it is. So how everybody can promise us that in this big plan we don't have a oops, and when we're going to get to the middle of school, oops, it's all the whole plan, and the view is beautiful, but in actual way, when you get there, oh sorry, we don't have the money, we don't have the teacher, we don't have this.
Got it. So, what's your name? What's your name? So, yes. So there's a facilities room where you could take that question. You don't want to talk to me about that. I'm Mercutio. You don't want to talk about Mark. He's a teacher. You want to talk about somebody who has studied our facilities. There is a room called facilities. Look on your sheets. Go ask that question of people who for a living do it. I'm not pushing that question down the road. I'm saying talk to an expert. When my tree has Dutch elm disease, I want to talk to a Dutch elm guy. I don't want to talk to somebody who doesn't know about trees or the Lorax. Come to the rooms. I like the Lorax. I invite you to stay as long as you want. I invite you to go from room to room. I invite you to find the different people and ask specific questions. I invite you to come back tomorrow night. If your questions aren't answered tonight, come back at about this time tomorrow night, hopefully a little bit earlier, and go back to the rooms. Get your questions answered. We are not going to do anything until we've heard from everybody who's here. Thank you for coming. I'm going to excuse you. Pardon me? Oh, and remember to finish your surveys. Oh, and Laura would kill me. The people on this side are to go out that exit, and the people on this side are to go out that exit, correct? And now I turn you back to Laura.
And just because this is a slightly different format, the EDC, the Education Development Center, right across the courtyard, is kind of the hub for tonight. There's coffee, water, some cookies. There's a computer bank set up so each and every one of you can fill out a survey as to your specific thoughts, input. That all goes back to this team. So the EDC is the hub. There's signage directing you that way. And then there's 4 classrooms in the Science and Technology Center surrounding the EDC, each labeled Facilities, Finance, Teaching and Learning, Social Development. So follow the signage. We'll also be there helping direct you. This is kind of like a back to school night. Conversations are happening. You go to one room, you go to another, you go to another. This survey is also available online, so we can all move across the street now. Thank you, everyone. Again, if this side can kind of go toward this door.
Les, I'm more concerned about, like, I don't know if it's going to happen. Sorry. Change is good, but this is BS.